Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai 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 Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om. Hari Om to everybody.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om Swamiji, Pranam Swamiji.
Back again to
Hari Om Swamiji, Pranam Swamiji.
Pranam, Pranam. Back again to In Quest of God. We are in chapter number 32.
33, Swami. Swamiji, 33, Swami.
No, 32 Muchukund Rishi Ashram.
32.
Muchukund Rishi's ashram and Dwarka. So from there, the most important thing is, then Ramdas received the command from Ram to leave the place where Muchukunda Rishi's ashram was there. Accordingly, he left Junagadh by the midnight train, and after a change at some junction, reached the station of Porbandar. From the station, he went to the city of Sudhamapuri. The blessed saint Sudhama, the great bhakta of Sri Krishna, had lived here, and hence the name Sudhamapuri. Here he was reminded now and again of Sudhama's humble offer of beaten rice to Krishna and the loving acceptance of it by him, and also how Sri Krishna on one occasion washed the feet of Sudhama, which brought to Ramdas's mind the famous line of Swami Ramtirtha, a slave is a slave because he is free. So when we read this, what prompts us now is to go through that Sudhama's episode. Those who have gone to Gujarat will know that from Porbandar to Dwarka, we were told it's about 90 kilometers or 90 miles, we don't know. We had gone through that area by road. We were mentally thinking, Sudhama walked all the way to Dwarka. Just imagine. And what was the Sudhama's episode? Many might remember, but it is worth to read it again and to travel with Sudhama to Dwarka to have the darshan of the Lord. There is an interesting incident just before that. The Lord spent some more time with the Pandavas. Arjuna and he visited all the favorite haunts of their youth. Arjuna had by now forgotten most of the glorious teachings of the Gita. Like us, we hear everything and then we forget. Yet considered himself to be a great devotee. Exactly. The Lord always contrived to bring about situations that would deflate the egos of his devotees. One day while they were wandering, disguised as ordinary travelers. They came across a Brahmin who was ferociously sharpening his sword. Arjuna gazed at him in surprise and inquired, "Why are you resorting to violence, O Brahmana?" The Brahmana replied, "There is no sin in killing for the sake of my Lord. 3 people have treated him very badly. One is that rascal Sudama, who allowed him to wash his feet and forced him to eat unclean rice flakes. The second is the sage Narada, who is always disturbing my Lord's sleep by his incessant reciting of his names. And third is that fellow Arjuna," he is talking to Arjuna, "who insisted on making my Lord take on the menial position of his chariot." Krishna looked on in great amusement at Arjuna's discomfiture and whispered to him that discretion was the better part of valor. It would be expedient to quit the scene before the great Brahmin discovered his identity. The incident with Sudama referred to by the Brahmin took place soon after the Mahabharata war, when the Lord was residing in Dwaraka. So many lessons are there from this explanation. It is not the mere story, no. Sudama was a Brahmin who was also known as Kuchela because of the tattered condition of his clothing. He had studied with Krishna and Balrama at Guru Santipani's ashrama at Avanti. Though they had parted with many promises to keep in touch with each other, as is the case with many childhood friends, they lost contact with each other. However, this intimacy with Krishna had evoked a deep and abiding devotion in the poor Brahmin boy. He had lived a life of complete austerity and devotion to the Lord, totally uncaring about his own welfare, wandering about, singing the Lord's songs and meditating on his glories. Observing his careless state, some well-meaning friends decided to get him married so that he would have someone to care for his daily needs. They found him a wife who was well suited to his temperament, pious, devoted. With such an improvident husband, she was forced to fend for both of them and eke out a miserable existence by begging. Kuchela hardly ever thought of inquiring how they managed, for he was confident that the Lord would provide, as he had always done. Lesson number 1, His needs were few, and if something was placed before him, he would eat. Otherwise, he would fast. Neither made much difference, for he was ever immersed in some inner vision which sustained him. But his poor wife, who was not so blessed, could not bear to see the plight of her children. Once it came to pass that even the pittance she managed to get was denied, and the hearth had not been lit for many days. Unable to bear the sight of her children starving to death in front of her eyes, she approached her husband and said, "O Holy One, I have heard you say that the worshipful Lord Krishna, protector of the Yadavas, the consort of Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, was your friend and schoolmate at the Gurukula. He is a lover of pious men and a haven of refuge for all. Could you not approach him for a small favor for us? It will mean nothing to him, but it will be the saving of our family. The condition of our children is pitiful indeed. Pray, listen to me, go to him." Kuchela was not at all happy at the idea. The thought of begging for material goods from one, capital one, O, who was capable of granting immortality, was galling to him. The thought of begging for material goods from one who was capable of granting immortality was galling to him. The Lord knows the wants of all. The fact that he did not give him wealth meant, now these are all lessons, that he was undeserving. What an insult it would be to go and coerce him into giving. The lack of material wealth meant nothing to him. What is surrender? Yesterday we were talking about. This is the real surrender. Contentment, simple living, accepting whatever is given, not making any demands, no grumbling, no complaints, in spite of the hardest life. What an insult it would be to go and coerce him into giving it. The lack of material wealth meant nothing to him. He felt no hardship whatsoever. He was a true devotee, asking for nothing but the opportunity to love and worship the Lord every moment of his life with no expectation of fruits. Yesterday, the person who is rendering the Bhagavata Saptaham in the nearby temple, he came to a sadhana kudir. I could see how moving he was, He said, today was the day for Sudhama's story. I was seeing him, he said. After having been entreated by his wife many times, he agreed more because of the exciting thought that he would be able to meet the Lord of his heart once again. But he was worried at the thought of going empty-handed to meet such glorious personage. It was considered proper to take a gift, so he asked his wife to get him something. She looked at him in astonishment. Their hut was absolutely bare of even the basic necessities, and here was her husband asking her to produce a gift fit for a king. What was she to do? Suddenly Kujela himself came up with the bright idea. I know just the thing he will like, he said. Krishna was very fond of the little flakes of beaten rice the Guru's wife used to make for us. You must get some paddy and pound it for me to take to him. The poor lady was at her wit's end. Where was she to get this? They had not cooked anything in the house for days, and they had exhausted the charity of their neighbors. She ran out in despair and saw a man approaching her. Though he was a complete stranger, she ran to him, opened her palms in supplication. He took 3 fistfuls of grain from the bag he was carrying and gave it to her. It is said that the Lord himself had appeared to help her. Thankful at having obtained something from such an unexpected quarter, she hurried back, cleaned the paddy, pounded it into flakes. It looked a pitiful handful indeed. She searched in vain for some cloth in which to tie it, but could find nothing in that poverty-stricken household. Tearing off a piece of her own tattered attire, she lovingly tied up the rice flakes into a very small bundle. Then she anxiously presented it to her husband when she set out the next morning. Kuchera went with a joyous heart, for he was going to see the Lord. By evening, he reached the precincts of Dwarka and saw the golden turrets of the palaces glinting at the rays of the setting sun. With every step he took, his heart beat faster in anticipation. He had not eaten for days, yet his feet hastened of their own accord, and his tired eyes gleamed at the thought of the bliss in store for him. Will he recognize me? He wondered. Will he remember me? Timidly he hovered outside the palace gates, wondering what to do. The guards looked at him curiously, turned away, for they did not think him worthy of attention. Inside the palace, Krishna's consort Rukmini wondered at his distraught and restless behavior during the day. He seemed unable to concentrate on anything. He kept going to the balcony to watch the road. At last, she timidly ventured to ask him what the matter was. I am expecting a very dear friend, he replied. Perhaps the best dishes and the best room for him for there is none so dear to me. Rukmini also watched and waited anxiously for the sight of a royal coach or chariot. But evening came and no one appeared. Suddenly the Lord got up from the swing bed on which he was resting, rushed to the palace gates. Rukmini followed him in haste, carrying all the auspicious articles she had kept ready in order to welcome the honored guest. When she reached the palace gate, she was surprised to find Krishna clasping to his chest an emaciated morsel of humanity, a mere bundle of skin and bone held together by a few rags. However, at a sign from her Lord, she hurried forward to wash his feet with perfumed water. Krishna practically carried Kuchela upstairs to his room, preceded by ladies in carrying lamps. He seated him on his own favorite swing bed. He sat himself down beside Kujela, with his arm flung around him. Rukmini proceeded to fan them both with the royal fan. Kujela was absolutely bewildered. Never in his widest dream had he expected a welcome like this. He sat in a daze of happiness while Krishna pelted him with a question to which he could scarcely formulate a reply. Oh, dearest friend, why have you never come to me before? How has life treated you? Are you married? How many children do you have? This was Kuchela's cue to have put in his quest, but the poor man had completely forgotten the reason for his visit. He could only smile and gaze adoringly at the beloved face so close to his. As soon as he arrived, Kuchela was so overwhelmed by the magnificence of his surroundings that he had felt quite ashamed of his pitiful offering and had tucked the bundle away under his armpit. Everyone in the palace was astonished to see the Lord worshipping this emaciated Brahmin with such love. A man who would be scorned by the world in general was being treated like his own brother by the Lord. What merit had he acquired to deserve such a treatment? Soon after, Balrama also came, and the two of them sat either side of the Brahmin and reminisced over the happy days of their youth at the Gurukula. The Lord spoke of the greatness of the preceptor. Those through whom one is born in this world are one's first gurus. Thus the parents should be first worshipped as gurus. The one who invests the sacred thread and gives eligibility to study the Vedas is the second guru, greater even than the first. And finally, the one who imparts the wisdom of the Supreme is the greatest of all gurus. Know that one to be none other than myself. Though I reside in all beings, Yet worshipping me through the Guru is the worship I like best. It is only by the grace of the Guru that one can attain the fulfillment of spiritual aspirations. Kuchela replied, O Supreme Divinity, O thou teacher of all the worlds, what further fulfillment in life can I have, who have had the great good fortune to have spent some days with you at the abode of the Guru? How can I ever forget those days? My life since then has been spent in contemplation of that blessed memory. Do you remember how we used to go to the forest to collect firewood for the Guru, and how one day we were caught in the heavy rain and could not return? You sheltered me in your arms then, until our compassionate preceptor came, rescued us in the morning, and blessed us. Surely, it is the blessing of that venerable being that I have had the opportunity of being with you like this. So saying, Kuchela nestled close to his beloved divinity, gazing at him with adoring eyes. However, he was careful to keep his arm pressed close to his side all the time, for he did not want the Lord to see his miserable offering. The Lord knew what was in his mind. Looked pointedly at the place where he could see a tiny piece of rag sticking out, and waited expectantly for the gift, but in vain. Kuchela only hugged the bundle closer. Though the Lord wants nothing and expects nothing, yet even the humblest gift his devotees offer is accepted with joy, for it is the coin of their love. It is not the magnitude of the gift that matters, but the magnitude of the heart which offers it. In front of the Lord of Lakshmi, all of us are Pujelas. Even so, we can offer him a fistful of rice flakes, moistened with tears of love, with overflow. That overflow from our eyes. At last, having lost all hopes of being offered the gift, the Lord teasingly said, O dearest friend, what gift have you brought for me from your home? Even a trifle offered to me is precious to me. Whatever is offered with love, be it a leaf or a flower or a fruit or a grain or even water, I accept with delight. Despite these broad hints and pointed looks at the hiding place, the bashful Brahmin looked down and did not present a handful of rice. At last, tired of waiting, and not wishing to tease him any further, Krishna stretched forward, pulled out the miserable bundle from its hiding place. Ah, what is this? He asked teasingly with a twinkle in his eyes. Oh, you sly one, were you keeping it as a surprise for me? He opened the rag, looked at the contents and continued, how clever of you to guess what I would like most. Do you remember the rice flakes our Guru's wife used to make for us? I have never eaten such delicious stuff since then, but I feel sure your wife must have made a similar kind. These royal princes do not know the art, he said with an amused look in Rukmini's direction. So saying, he took a fistful of the stuff and ate it with evident relish. Then he took another and was just about to put in his mouth when Rukmini caught his hand. Lord, be not hasty. Would you give me away as well? The moment the Lord ate one fistful of this potent stuff, charged with the entire love of Kuchela's heart, he had already blessed him with all worldly goods. Had he taken another, Rukmini feared that she, the goddess of wealth, herself would have to take up her abode as handmaid to Kuchela's wife. If we were to offer our gifts to him, with the love of humility of a Kuchela, there is no doubt that we would also be showered with all fortune. But we know only the language of the market. Our gifts are bribes. and hence we get what we deserve. Kuchela spent a blissful night with the Lord. During the whole time, not once did he even remember the reason for his visit and the condition of his wife and children. Even though Krishna prompted him many times in order to test him, Kuchela's mind did not waver from its contemplation of the Lord. At last, when morning dawned, he rose up reluctantly, hoping that the Lord might urge him to stay. But he made no such attempt, neither did he offer him anything. All he did was to urge him to make frequent trips in the future. They parted with utmost affection. Krishna hugged him, personally escorted him to the gate, bade him a fond farewell. Kuchela was filled with sorrow, not because he had not received anything, but because he had to part from his beloved master. As he trudged his weary way back, he suddenly remembered the reason for his visit and wondered what he was going to say to his wife. But he put the matter out of his mind as of no consequence, for his mind was filled with the bliss of the hours he had spent with the Lord. Though I am the poorest of the poor, he hugged me to his bosom, which is the abode of Lakshmi. Like a brother, he made me sit on his own couch, which he shares with his consort. My tired body was fanned by his queen. He himself performed every form of service to me, including washing my feet with his blessed hands and applying sandal paste. Thus I was honored like a king by him who is the God of all gods. In his mercy, he did not tempt me with wealth, for he knows that a sudden acquisition of wealth may go to a poor man's head, make him vain, eventually lead to downfall. Ruminating in this manner, that noble one reached the spot where his cottage had stood. In its place, he saw the towers of a mansion, as luminous as the one he had just left. He stopped short, wondering whether his bemused state of mind, he had retraced his step back to Dwaraka. The mansion was surrounded with numerous parks and gardens, and by lakes filled with lotuses and swans. While this poor man stood hesitating outside the gates, he saw a vision. Clothed in silks and jewels, gliding towards him, escorted by many beautiful maids carrying auspicious articles. To his bewildered gaze, she appeared like Goddess Lakshmi herself, and he felt sure he was seeing an illusion. When the beautiful lady came closer and addressed him as their lord, he realized that she was none other than his own wife, whom people used to call Kukukshama because of her emaciated condition. Gently she led him inside the mansion, bade him take a bath, clothe himself in costly garments that had been laid out for him. His beautiful children now came, danced all around him. Disturbed by this display of wealth, Kuchela closed his eyes, remained wrapped in contemplation. The reason for the attainment of such heavenly prosperity by a poverty-stricken man like me must be my meeting with that embodiment of grace and plenty. He showers his blessings on his devotees as the clouds their rain without any announcement and as if they were a trifle. Yet he ate my insignificant gift of beaten rice with such delight. But, O Lord, the fact that I have been blessed with such wealth is a great trial for me. All I want is to be blessed with undying devotion and service to you, life after life. This is my only prayer. Thinking thus, the Brahmin wanted to renounce those objects of worldly enjoyment, but to please his wife, he continued to live in that mansion as if he were only a guest and completely detached from it all. Let not the change in my material state affect my spiritual state, was his continuous prayer. Let me ever rejoice in you alone and not in the baubles of worldly existence. He had not minded when he went about in tatters, did not care now that he was clad in silks. He was as unaffected as his affluence as he had been by his poverty. He was the true Sthita Prajna, or the man of enlightenment of the Gita. Actually, the Lord had conferred all worldly goods on him, not for his sake, but for the sake of his wife, who was also a devotee and who had not been able to bear the pitiful state and hungry cries of her children. Because of her great love and fidelity, this poor woman had conquered the Lord, who cannot be conquered with words. She continued to do her duty to her husband and children until the end of her life, while Sudama spent his time in continuous meditation on the Lord, until the knot of his body's bondage was cut under and he attained the deathless realm.
Super Swami, super. The man Satsang is going to answer that. Thrilling Swami, Bhayankarama.
This was what Papa remembered. From the station, he went to the city of Sudhamapuri. The blessed saint Sudama, the great Bhakta of Sri Krishna, had lived here, and hence the name Sudhamapuri. Here he was reminded now and again of Sudama's humble offer of beaten rice to Krishna and the loving acceptance of it by him, and also how Sri Krishna, on one occasion, washed the feet of Sudama, which brought to Ramdas's mind the famous line of Swami Ramtirtha, "A slave is a slave because he is free." In the company of two sadhus, he visited the temple of Sri Krishna, said to have been erected at the spot where Sudama's cottage once stood. The same evening, he and the two sadhus, who were joined later, started on foot towards Dwarka. In our life, many a time we would have read Sudama's episode, no? Yesterday we were telling, that great Bhakta who is rendering this Bhagavata Saptah in the nearby temple, he couldn't complete the words. He said today was Sudama's. And he would have, in his own way, he would have explained how he took the beaten rice and how Rukmini came and caught hold of his hand when he took the second one. Papa did not simply say that he went to Dwaraka, no? So he wants every one of us to go through this episode, touch and kindle the learnings, learnings of this great saint Sudama. We have miles and miles and miles to go, but still, hearing the glories of a Bhaktottama, that will have its own impact in our life. How the Lord, who is the knower of all, how he acted the drama, and by which he reinforced the devotion in him. As if, we have just now read, he had insulated him so that the outer riches don't disturb his devotion. In fact, his devotion became many, many fold. Finally, they say, Sthita Prajna. He was untouched, unaffected by those material riches. Papa wanted all of us to go through this often, We also make supplications, prayers. But if we have nil prayer, everything is given to us. That stage we have to reach. That is why he said a slave is a slave, because he is free.
What does it mean, Swami?
It only means the Lord and the devotee. When the devotee feels he is a slave of the master, he is totally free. He did not ask anything. Even while he was respected by, he was adored, he was revered, he was offered puja, everything. He did not. He was only seeing the glories of the Lord. The pride never entered into his mind. That is why Swami Ramtirtha, in what context he said, Papa, you use this in this context. A slave is a slave because he is free. Because he always thinks about the master. He is a slave of the master. And so he is free from all problem. Even though his family was suffering, he did not feel it. We have just read, Just like when we go through Tukaram, even though his wife was trying it extremely difficult to make both ends meet, she was also a very noble lady. But it did not affect Tukaram at all. And even when the Lord blessed him with riches, in his case he refused to accept. So every now and then, suppose we go through the Bhaktottama's life, it is not merely a story, The lesson is this. When our devotion becomes one-pointed, so we are all praying to him, make my devotion one-pointed. I have so many things to ask you now. At the bodily level, at the mental level, intellectual level, social level, financial level. I have a big list always to ask you, Whereas now these stories make us understand. If we approach him with a blank mind, though he may test us by pushing us to a corner, he will hear. This assurance we get only when we go through the Bhaktottama's life. Any Bhaktottama. So that's one of the greatest lesson Papa is teaching us in this 32nd chapter. Even if we forget everything, what is contained in this, if this much remains in our mind, we pray to him. You helped Ujjayala to have this devotion, You make me feel that I am also your devotee. But I know, I am nowhere nearer to him. Because I have always my list, big list, a requisite list. Today when I pray, what all I should ask now, Item number 1, item number 2, item number 3, like that the list goes on. Which is the day when I prayed without any list? Only one. I want 100% devotion to you. We feel guilty, We have never asked this. Now Sudama gently reminds us, you don't ask anything. Whatever is to be given, it will be given to you. At the time he appoints, not at the time you ask, Hello? Hari Om. Not clear.
26th of January this year,
Breaking.
subject of
Hari Om, audio is breaking. Hari Om? Yes,
Are you able to hear me?
Now, okay.
clear.
Yes?
Are you able to hear now?
Now, yes.
On the 25th of January, this subject was touched upon. A slave is a slave because he is free.
Ah,
At that time, you had mentioned that slave implies subordination to the higher power.
ah,
Since the entire load is taken care of by the master,
correct,
a slave is free.
correct.
I just want to recall.
Yeah. Same thing. It applies only to the Lord and the devotee because here the master has entire affection, has everything for the devotee. So the devotee doesn't have to ask anything.
Yes, Swami.
The devotee is also, the slave is also fully aware that I am completely free. I don't have to ask. Whatever is needed will be provided at the time he chooses.
Yes, Swami.
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
Swami, one more point. Yesterday you were dwelling quite in depth about the PhD.
PhD.
About the PhD.
Ah.
I was reminded that, while doing this PhD, one is asked to study the literature. That means the subject he has chosen, he should see what others have done in that. But at the same time, he has to give a declaration saying that although I read all those what others have done, my work is individual, independent, and does not depend on others' work. The same way, Aikuji says that you go through all this, but have your own independent way of attaining the highest.
Correct. Quite right.
Hari Om, Swami.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Swamiji, this is the most touching part of IQG.
Most touching part. It contains all that we need to know, no? Papa did not just mention and went, He touched what is to be touched. He went to the city of Sudhamapuri. The blessed Saint Sudama, the great Bhakta of Sri Krishna, had lived here and hence the name Sudhamapuri. Here he was reminded now and again of Sudama's humble offer of beaten rice to Krishna and the loving acceptance of it by him. And also how Sri Krishna on one occasion washed his feet of Sudama, which brought to Ramdas's mind the famous line, "A slave is a slave because he is free." So we all pray now. You touch and kindle. You made us to hear this. But at that time, initially when we were told, in our school days we have heard this. There was a poem. And the teacher explained. Then it was nice to hear, that's all. Beyond that, we did not know anything. But later on, when we also heard Harikathas, at that time also we heard. But later on, slowly, why this Sudhama Charitam is there? Why in all Bhagavatam it is taken up? And yesterday the instrumental cause was that great person.
It's a strange coincidence of yesterday's and today's.
Yeah.
Good coincidence.
And so today, when we came about 3:30, suddenly this idea came. And yesterday we gave him one book, Sri Krishna Leela. He said, if you have only one, I will take a photograph, copy it and then give it. I said, no, don't worry, we have got enough. Then he explained about Sri Krishna Leela book. And he took it.
You all wanted this.
But how Papa arranges, Today at that time, we did not know that we are going to take up this Mujukund Rishi's ashram again. As a opening, somebody said, no, we are already finished. No. This aspect we did not touch at all yesterday. Or day for yesterday.
I want the book that you told.
Very good, very good. Read. And contemplate. So Dwaraka. The rest of the things we are now leaving it. Gomati Dwaraka. There is a river, now it is also dry.
When we hear it from a person who enjoys testosterone, it makes more impact on us. When we hear it from a person who enjoys it,
touches. Papa touches our heart. We can only bend and bow before him, The small incident now. Yesterday evening, that person came. Once in a way he used to come in between the bathroom. Yesterday morning also he came at about 5 o'clock. And he said, I am fully charged now. And somebody who came along with him said, today he was in a different realm when he took up.
Papa said him really.
Terrible. So what else we need confirmation from him now? Whatever is needed to us, along with Jnana, Jnanottara Bhakti, never forget this. Jnanottara Bhakti. Jnana is needed, but Bhakti is also needed. He was aware, Kuchel, Sudama was aware. He is the indwelling Lord. The Lord is also aware. But at the same time, in order that yugas, centuries, devotees enjoy this, he gave this, How many times, how many people in different places, in India, in different places, so many people will be doing Bhagavad Saptah. They will be rendering this. And all this because Lord wanted that, okay, you are all busy with your own preoccupations. Every now and then you should know that I am there to take care of you. But you don't give me a time. I will fix up the time. When I feel you need it, I will come and give it to you.
Really it is.
Now we can understand the word of Papa. God arranges all things in His own way at the time He appoints.
Yes.
We in our anxiety, we say it should be done now. We give him a time, Whereas a true bhakta leaves everything to him. Then next is Bombay. We will take up this 33 tomorrow because we don't have only four more, no? Very few pages. Siddharudha Swami, okay. Let us try to go back to this particular portion.
Only one more thing, Swamiji. Same thing happened to Swami Vivekananda also when he wanted some wealth and all that. He was asked to go to pray for mother. He didn't ask for anything. He came back like that. It's an incident with Vivekananda.
Correct. Vivekananda is asking about Vivekananda now. Yes, Vivekananda. That story is, is very nice to remember. When he was pestering Sri Bhagavan Ramakrishna Paramahamsa with questions, he said, why don't you ask direct? So one day he went there. When he went there, intuitively, he knew the mother asked, yes, what do you want? Not a word came out of him. He came back. Bhagavan asked, did you ask? No. Go again. No? To test him. So that means in front of the indwelling and all-pervading Almighty, why should we assume the role of a doer? When He Himself has given us this, we can complain to Him, you make me to forget about this. Probably you may call it as Leela, but it is too much for me. I want to remember you. I want to become aware of your presence. Why are you denying it to me?
Swamiji, is this called emptying?
Huh?
Pardon?
Is this called emptying? Emptying yourself?
Emptying yourself, is this called emptying yourself?
Yeah, emptying ourselves. When we empty ourselves, He fills it with whatever is needed for us. No?
Swamiji, Jnanottara Bhakti, Parabhakti, same, Swamiji?
Is it same?
Is it same?
Same.
Same, huh?
Same. Papa himself has coined this word Jnanottara Bhakti. I have not heard anywhere. Only in God experience we found Jnanottara Bhakti, and he says Parabhakti. But Jnanottara Bhakti, when we say that, we can understand the word Jnana is also there, Bhakti is also there. So Papa keeps on emphasizing the need for Jnana, the relevance of Jnana, and the supremacy of Bhakti. The relevance of Jnana and the supremacy of Bhakti. Both should go hand in hand. We should become aware of it to ensure that the life does not become dry. Even the very passage becomes lively, enjoyable.
Swamiji, what about Gopi's Bhakti? What is this called? Gopi's Bhakti.
Gopis Bhakti.
Gopis.
Gopikas.
Gopi's Bhakti. What it is called?
Day first day we read, That was also Gopis Bhakti. They don't expect anything. They want to become one with Him, communion with Him. Nothing else they require. They forget about everything. They are not asking for anything, only to become aware of the present, that's all. Papa gives...
In this chapter, Papa climbs from one rock to another, completely lost in meditation.
He couldn't contain. He couldn't contain himself. Yes, we saw that. Pitch dark.
Swami, there is a Sitaram carriage in the train.
Sitaram carriage.
Sorry, it was generally
132.
Sitaram carriage, which is free, no?
Yeah, free for sadhus. And there is two names are there, Bet Dwaraka and Gomati Dwaraka. Proper Dwaraka is called Bet Dwaraka. And nearby the river is called Gomati Dwaraka. There is a reference for Mohammedan also. Two Mohammedan steamboats have been taken. Muhammad Ki Jai has been taken.
Here, what is more important is resting in the Dharmashala for the night, the next morning, the party visited the famous temple of Dwarakanath. An indescribable feeling of rapture and joy was experienced by Ramdas. And he stood in front of the idol of Sri Krishna. He remained inside the temple for nearly 2 hours in a state of complete and blissful absorption.
Yes, yes.
These are all hints, learnings for us, Though he is indwelling and all-pervading, for enabling us to feel his presence, he also stands before us in the form of an idol. And so we enjoy this idol darshan and connecting ourselves to the cosmic reality. That is why he was in ecstasy. He was in 2 hours, he rose above his body level. He remained inside the temple for nearly 2 hours in a state of complete and blissful abstraction. He next wandered on the seashore, jumping from rock to rock. He couldn't contain the joy. Many of you might have gone to Dwaraka. It's a wonderful sight. Clusters, you will see a lot of clusters inside the temple. A few people will be exchanging something. Somebody will be reading like this. Somebody will be hearing. Somebody will be doing Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So many people, in so many places. But we don't find anything disturbing. We don't say it should be uniformal. Each one, feels quite at home. A wonderful sight. And then finally the sanctum sanctorum of the curtain is removed. There the curtain system is there. Only in Kerala or Tamil Nadu you have got this wall. There the curtain is removed. And with such a background in your mind, the moment you open, then close. And feel you are everywhere. You are inside me. Now you make me to feel your presence. Why don't you make me to feel always? And again somebody disturbs, you open and you come back. Then you see, you enjoy. Everybody is reveling in their own way. And we don't treat it as a disturbance. That is the unique. Nowadays we don't know. Our visit was probably 20 years back. It was really thrilling. Everyone feels quite at home there. And again the curtain again they carry on with this. And everybody comes, it's a wonderful sight to see. 1 or 2 hours it will just go like this. So when Papa blesses us with this background, that not only that you enjoy the idol, the Ishta Devata in that room, in that form, but also connect yourself to the cosmic reality.
It feels a nearness of
that should be always be there in our mind. We see it and at the same time connecting ourselves to the cosmic reality. That is Jnanottara Bhakti, Because he is all-pervading. He is not limited to this particular one. So as a devotee, we can say, we have got our own limitation. Just with this. So kindly enable us to remember you. Enable us not to ask you anything. Enable us to completely leave everything to you. This sort of prayer, Today we are deeply grateful to Papa for having touched and kindled all these aspects in us. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om
Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om On this occasion, we remember Pujya Swami. It was in 1996, sometime during September, August, September. The group of local people came and said there is a prashnam, an astrological consultation. So you should come in the roadside, near roadside. So we all went there. We sat for some time, then came back. It was found that it is a holy place. Now the time has come for putting up a temple. Swamiji came back. A committee was formed. They took up with all initiative. But after a month or so, they couldn't move forward. All of them came here and requested Pujya Swamiji, please take it up. And by December, then it was suggested that we will form a trust. And the trust was formed in December 97. When Pujya Swamiji touched this project, it was something like Sputnik. On May 9th, Pradishta was done. Right from foundation. Land was not ours. Only a small piece of land was there. That also was donated by the owners. And that was hardly sufficient for the foundation. In front of that, probably more than an acre, we don't remember exactly the measurement. That was owned by one Muslim. Word was sent through somebody. He immediately came to ashram and the price was fixed. Somebody gave a big sum, at that particular time. Immediately that was given because it was touched by him. And on May 9th, things started moving like this, one by one. Why we remember now, And when the Pradishta was going on, Pujya Swamiji was very much with the inside, very near the sanctum sanctorum. Tears were flowing. A saint who has identified himself with the Nirguna Nirakara aspect. And when he saw the Pradishta, tears were flowing. Somebody was kind enough to immediately take a clip. Swamiji did not utter a word. Now he makes us to remember that. That even while getting established in the cosmic reality, equal importance should be given about the relevance of Murti Puja.
Nirguna and Saguna.
We understand Jnanottara Bhakti because of these incidents. He made us to observe, 25 years back. This had happened in 1997. What had happened 25 years back, he today makes us to remember it. The scene is still before us. And with the hands like this, the tears were flowing. How we don't know what he prayed, but we are inferring, we make our own thoughts. How in the shortest possible time you facilitated everything and to get yourself installed in this temple, which will be a source of inspiration to innumerable devotees for times to come, for years to come, for decades to come, for centuries to come. Suddenly we remembered. Hari Om.
Hari Om Swamiji. Pranam.
Pranam.
Namaskaram, Swamiji.
Namaskaram.
Hari Om Swamiji. Pranam Swamiji. Pranam Swamiji.
Pranam.